Hello students, how are you? Hope you're fine. Well, this is an introduction of Unit 9, Complex Noun Phrases. Let's begin. Generally, we can say that words are organized in word classes, but we can organize them into higher units known as phrases. In this unit, we're going to develop complex noun phrases. But first, let's remember, what's a noun phrase? Well, a noun phrase is a phrase with a noun as its head. This means that the most important information within this phrase is a noun. Why? Because the noun is the most important carrier of information. Let's see an example. In the phrase, the pretty girl, the most important carrier of information is the word girl, which is a noun. We may say that this noun phrase has extended the information regarding this noun by the addition of an adjective. This is so a complex noun phrase. Noun phrases are one of the key parts or key components of English grammar along with verb phrases. And we can expand the meaning of simple noun phrases by adding modifiers. When we use modification to expand the meaning of a noun phrase, then we have a complex noun phrase. A complex noun phrase is a phrase which has been expanded by the addition of modifiers. In the following examples, we can see two simple noun phrases as girl and the girl. But then we can see an example where we have expanded the meaning of the noun phrase girl, the simple noun phrase girl, by adding a pre-modifier, which is in this case the adjective pretty. In describing complex noun phrases, we can distinguish some components. In this case, we are going to analyze three key components. Those are the head, around which the other components cluster, the premodification, which comprises all the items placed before the head. Generally, they are adjectives, nouns, or sequences we're going to see later. And lastly, we can find post-modification, comprising all the items which can be placed after the head. The most common post-modifiers are prepositional phrases or clauses, which can be either non-finite or finite clauses. We're going to see them in detail soon. All in all, we can say that the protagonist of this unit is the noun phrase and its possible modifications. We put emphasis in these possible modifications because sometimes we can find head nouns which have only pre-modification or only post-modification, and there are cases where we can find both pre and post-modification in a single complex noun phrase. Okay, the central constituent of a complex noun phrase is called head. We're going to call head noun to the noun which has modification. It's worth mentioning that also personal pronouns can be head nouns within a complex noun phrase. Remember that personal pronouns are used to condense information regarding a previous noun phrase. Let's see some examples of this. In this first example, our head noun is the noun girl, which has been pre-modified by the use of an adjective. In the following example, we can see that the head noun girl has a post-modifier, which is a non-finite ing clause as a post-modifier. And finally, we have an example where our head noun girl has a pre-modifier and a post-modifier. As you may have seen, some elements accompanying the head noun are optional. However, some elements are essential and obligatory to identify the head noun. We're going to talk about this in further videos. Along with this simple premodification, noun phrases can have multiple premodifiers. We're going to call these premodification sequences. By far the most common sequences we can find in multiple premodification are the following. In the first sequence, please note that adverbs do not modify head nouns directly. Only occasionally adverbs can be premodifiers. In the second sequence, we can find adjectives plus nouns before the head noun. And in the last sequence, we can see the use of multiple adjectives in the premodification. Let's see some examples of this multiple premodification. In the first example, our head noun is the noun day, which has been premodified by an adverb plus an adjective. See that in this case, the adverb is not placed immediately before the head noun. It's not modifying the head noun directly. In this second example, we can see our head noun is the noun furniture, which has been modified by a sequence where we can find an adverb, an adjective, and a noun. Finally, our head noun in this example is the noun stories, which has been modified by the use of an adjective plus a noun. Apart from the premodifiers we've seen previously, I wanted to add determiners. Determiners are not considered part of premodification, and they are optional elements within a complex noun phrase. However, it's important to recognize them and to be able to identify them in order not to confuse them with premodifiers. Generally speaking, we use determiners to specify the reference of a noun, and within determiners we can include articles, possessive and demonstrative pronouns, quantifiers, and numerals. In this chart, we can see how determiners can combine with nouns. They may appear or not within a complex noun phrase, but in general we can find zero article if there's no article, the indefinite article, the definite article, possessive and demonstrative pronouns, quantifiers, and numerals, either cardinal or ordinal numbers. Finally, let's analyze the post-modification. Some elements are optional, but some others are obligatory. This means that they are essential to the understanding of the complex noun phrase. The elements we can find after a head noun are majorly phrases and clauses. Within phrases, we can find prepositional phrases, which are by far the most common type of post-modification, and appositive noun phrases. Appositive noun phrases are also called appositions, and they are used to set background information related to the head noun. Remember, these appositive noun phrases are not essential information, so they can be removed, and generally they are placed between commas or between a comma and a full stop. Regarding clauses, we can find non-finite clauses as post-modifiers or finite clauses as post-modifiers. In respect to finite clauses, we need to distinguish post-modification from complementation. Complements are other elements that can be placed after a head noun, but they are not considered post-modifiers. They are used with few head nouns, and they include information related to the content of the head noun. Please note that the information covered within this finite clause is the content of the idea, which is our head noun. Let's see some examples about phrases as post-modifiers. The first example has a first head noun, which is the noun compensation, which is post-modified by a prepositional phrase. Remember that prepositional phrases are made up by a preposition and a simple or a complex noun phrase. In this case, we have a preposition accompanied by a complex noun phrase. This means that within a prepositional phrase, we can find a second complex noun phrase. In the following example, we can see the use of an appositive noun phrase to expand the meaning of the previous head noun. Please note that within this appositive noun phrase, we have a second head noun and a third head noun. Both of these head nouns within the appositive noun phrase have been modified. The first head noun has a post modifier which includes a prepositional phrase. And the last head noun with this appositive noun phrase has been pre-modified by two nouns or by a sequence of nouns. Also note that in this case we have another noun which is only a simple noun because it doesn't have any kind of modification, or it has no modification at all. So we're not going to analyze this noun. Now let's see two examples to exemplify this distinction between finite clauses, which are relative clauses, and finite clauses, which are complement clauses. In this first phrase, our head noun car has a relative clause as a post modifier. Please note this relative clause is used to identify which car we are talking about. In this case, we are not referring to any car. We are referring to the car that was full of stolen items. Please check that in this case, within our relative clause, we still have a second head noun, which has been pre-modified by a participial. Irregular participles are considered ed participles. Now we're going to see that the second phrase is not the same as the previous. In this second phrase, our head noun is the word fact, and the information covered within our finite clause gives us the idea of the content of our head noun. That the car was full of stolen items is the fact itself. Please note that in this case, this clause is not a post modifier. This clause is a noun complement. We're going to see this distinction in detail in the following video. Okay, students, this is it for Unit 9, Complex Noun Phrases, the introduction. Hope you find it useful to start identifying and analyzing complex noun phrases. See you soon.